Hello, this is your December installment of Walpole News Today. I'm your host, Jessica Kurgo. Interim Chief Richard Kelleher was formally appointed as Chief of the Walpole Police Department on December 21st. Here's more on that story. On December 21st, 2021, Interim Chief Richard M. Kelleher was formally sworn in as Chief of the Walpole Police Department.
Bodyguard, halt! Wave, peace! Colors, post! Bodyguard, stand fast. Walpole Police, ceremonial, parade, press!
I'll move to ratify the appointment of Richard M. Kelleher as Police Chief for the Town of Walpole and sign the employment agreement between the Town of Walpole and Richard M. Kelleher.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Sir.
I, Richard Kelleher,
I, Richard Kelleher,
promise to uphold
promise to uphold
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the Commonwealth,
the laws of the Commonwealth.
After being administered the oath of office by Walpole Town Clerk Liz Gaffey, Chief Kelleher's badge was pinned by his wife Karen and their 2 sons.
Throughout this process, I've been asked why I wanted to be the next Walpole Police Chief. Given the changes that have been coming in this profession, the number of police chiefs around the Commonwealth who have been looking to retire, move on to other things, that could have been a difficult question to answer. But here in Walpole, and for me, it was not even close. To be the next police chief in this community that has wholeheartedly supported their police department is an honor and a privilege, to say the least. And thank you to every member of the Walpole Police Department for everything. So our command staff and administrative staff, Judy, of course, the real brains of the operation, who have supported me tremendously as I have transitioned into this new role. I can't say enough how much you've helped me and how much it means to me. To all of our sworn officers and dispatchers who work hard each day to carry out our department's mission, I thank you as well. I've said it before, and I'll say it again now, we have one of the best police departments in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's all because of your hard work, each and every one of you. I'm proud to be a member of the Walpole Police Department and truly honored to become its next police chief.
Kelleher's appointment is the culmination of a multi-phased hiring process that began when former Chief John Carmichael announced his resignation last spring. Members of the board reflected on the process before deciding to appoint Kelleher at an earlier December meeting.
I thought that we had 2 great candidates. It was an extensive process that started 5 or 6 months ago. 33 applicants. It was whittled down to a smaller group. There was an assessment center done by chiefs, and then we as a board did interviews with the 2 finalists last week.
You know, there's a lot of people, other residents, department heads from the town that took part in the search committee, and I think we've really done the process justice in its thoroughness and how we've taken advantage of a lot of input from various sources. So I feel very comfortable with that.
I think we had some great candidates, and I think the final 2 that were suggested to us by the screening committee were both really well qualified, and that came through in the chief assessment that was done.
I think Rich will be a great chief. I've enjoyed being able to watch him work over the last 5 or 6 months and work through a number of issues. You know, Walpole's a very active town. There's always a lot going on. And it's been great to see him deal with the issues that need to be dealt with and how he deals with them. I also agree with what Ben said, is I think that he'll be a young chief, and I think he's very open to sort of modern day policing, and I think that'll be a good thing for the town of Walpole. I know he's spent a lot of time over the years that he's been here reaching out, getting to know all sorts of people and all sorts of groups in the town of Walpole, and I think that's a great thing.
At that same meeting, the Select Board voted to approve an all-alcoholic beverage package store license for the recently opened Miles Express on Providence Highway.
I opened last week. I have a grand opening sign right now. It's $2.99 cheapest gas, you know. Anybody wants cheap gas, it's over there. And that's it. Small family business, you know.
I'll move to approve the request of Miles Express Inc., DBA Miles Express, for an all-alcoholic beverage package store license located at 1005 Providence Highway.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
The board later approved the employment contract of the new building commissioner, James Crowley.
As you all know, Building Commissioner Mike Yanovich has submitted his resignation. He's going to go off into the private sector. And Jim's been here for 2.5 years. Before coming to Walpole, he was in Brookline for 2.5 years. He's really demonstrated some great skills while he's been here. He's an excellent communicator, deals very well with the public and development owners and property owners. And I'd recommend that the board go forward and approve and authorize this contract to go forward.
Any questions or comments for Jim?
I'm good. I'll move to approve and sign the employment contract for Building Commissioner James Crowley.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Town Administrator Jim Johnson announced that all select board meetings will be held over Zoom through March 4th and urged other boards and committees to follow suit. The town plans to reevaluate the COVID-19 situation at that time. As of January 4th, 2022, there are currently a total of 3,529 positive COVID-19 cases in Walpole, and according to Health Director Melissa Ranieri, those numbers are bound to increase over the next few weeks due to the holiday gatherings. The largest number of infections are in the 19 and under group, so parents are urged to get their eligible children and themselves vaccinated. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has approved a request for a mask mandate waiver for Walpole High School, but that doesn't mean that the requirement will be lifted anytime soon. The school committee applied for the waiver when the high school reached the required 80% vaccination rate, but due to rising case rates and the recent holiday season, the committee felt that additional metrics should be considered. Here's more from their December 9th meeting.
The Walpole Health Department recommends a 3% community positivity metric. So what that would mean that as long as the positivity rate in the community, if it's greater than 3%, then masks would be required. Once we fall under that 3%, and as long as the high school holds at an 80% vaccination rate, then you could go mask optional for vaccinated students only.
I think this would be the worst time to make a decision tonight to get rid of masks. I think the 5% is a big number. I also think that the fact that we're 2 weeks out from the break, when we know people are going to be interacting more, I just, you just hate to make a decision that then you would have to undo potentially.
Like, we're literally going to deal with different variants as long as scientists are studying the disease. And, I fully agree with the Walpole Health Department's recommendation of including a metric of community positivity. I think that's excellent. I would even go further as, a metric of obvious student spread, like if there is multiple cases going, if we wanted to add additional things. But, I think continuing to push it off until an optimal time, at this point, it seems cyclical, like there's not going to be an optimal time.
I think that, we've done a really good job, and let's just keep it, at least for the, semester. Let's go through the holidays. I mean, our next meeting, I think, is mid-January, so it is a long time. We'll have some information about what's happened through the holidays, so I think we table it until then.
Ms. Sarek, it sounded like you had a motion to table. If anyone would like to second, I have a second from Ms. Denizio. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstain?
Mark, hold on, let me get Mark.
I'll call.
Chair will call. Mr. Breen?
Yes. Bill?
Yes. Was that a yes?
I vote yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Motion carries 5-1-0.
In early December, Walpole became one of several municipalities across the Commonwealth to receive a MassWorks infrastructure grant. The $214,000 grant will allow the town to extend a heavily trafficked sidewalk on Union Street. I spoke with Town Administrator Jim Johnson for more information. Can you tell me the significance of this grant for the town of Walpole?
So what this grant is going to do, it's going to provide better pedestrian access. It's going to extend the sidewalk down Union Street and connect it into Route 1 and allow employees who may take the 1034 e-bus to have access to some of the shops at the Walpole Mall and all along Route 1. Is going to provide a much safer access. Right now it's just a worn dirt pathway, and just be a lot more safer so they can get access to the mall and to everywhere else down there. So.
The Master Plan Steering Committee has met twice recently to prepare efforts for community outreach and engagement. For the month of January, the committee will focus heavily on what are known as kitchen conversations. Here's more from those meetings.
I would just encourage all of you to think about using this as a way to perhaps get, your hands out more into the community, perhaps reaching people who either have been somewhat underrepresented in the process or simply haven't been part of it at all.
At least more than a few of us are members of town meeting, right? So I think a really good way for us to get out there is to catch up with our other precinct, the rest of our precinct, and kind of push this out to them as well, so that we can bring more people from our individual precincts into these discussions. So that's another way to do it.
So we're reaching the far corners of our networks, but it's still, I would hope if we had some way to contact people that are underrepresented and not necessarily engaged, we would be doing it in all aspects of town events. So I just think if there's something that, maybe we do a Zoom meeting that is, we advertise it in Hometown Weekly and try to get, maybe we can have a specific one for if you're a renter in Walpole, we're doing it on X date and we can think of something else. I still have that concern that we're doing a great job of thinking about our spheres and our networks, but it's not all of Walpole.
And I think it's more important we hit the people than hit the time frame. I think, what Jen said, there's a lot of weight in that.
Anything you do now to try to increase and improve outreach into the community will benefit those later phases. But the vision and goals, we have to end this by the end of January.
A little rain didn't stop hikers from ringing in the new year with the 4th annual Walpole Trails Committee First Day Hike. Trails at the Aggie, Adams Farm, and Jarvis Farm were highlighted and fixed with wayfinding for self-guided tours throughout the day.
People can come here. We're going to mark the trails with arrows. We'll have maps available, and it's just a great way to get out and start the new year. I will say that the Walpole Trails Committee didn't invent the idea of First Day Hike. It started in 1992 at Blue Hills Reservation in Milton. I used to go to it every year myself with my family, and we figured why not give people an excuse to get out on January 1st, but not necessarily have to drive to another town to do it. Like I said, we have over 4,000 acres of open space in Walpole. We have a lot of great opportunities to hike, 50 miles of trails. And so this is one of 3 locations. The Aggie, Adams Farm is another location. Again, that's over 700 acres available there. And Jarvis Farm, which connects to the town forest, and that's over 365 acres of open space. So we'll mark the trails, we'll make it easy. The Aggie is probably the best spot for people to come if you have young kids and you want to bring a stroller. It's pretty stroller friendly at this site. And then the other locations are all pretty flat. Jarvis Farm has some challenging terrain if people want a little bit more of a challenge. But all the hikes are about 3 miles or a little bit under, and it's a great opportunity to start the new year.
The Friends of Adams Farm recently completed a 200-foot boardwalk connecting multiple trail systems on the property. Here's more on that story.
So I'm Chris, I'm one of the board members on the Friends of Adams Farm, and we're here today for the ribbon cutting of our most recent project, the 200-foot long boardwalk that helps connect a couple of the different trail systems here, passes over some wetlands. I just want to say how we should all be pretty thankful that we have a place like Adams Farm in our community. I think the last couple of years have shown that open space is really important. All right, here we go. We ready?
We're ready.
Okay.
Make it official.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Thank you. So I've been using the trails here for many years, and the place where this boardwalk is located was one that I noticed years ago that really could use some improvements. It was so muddy and wet, deep mud, several inches deep, really difficult to walk on foot and impossible with a bike.
It was a project that had been talked about between a couple of members of the board. It was just a logical area that would have been nice to connect a few different trail sections together.
Say goodbye to single-use plastic bags in Walpole. The town is working to inform residents of a new bylaw that restricts the use of plastic shopping bags at points of sale. I spoke with Walpole's deputy health agent and the author of the article for more information.
So it was passed at the Springtown meeting, and then it was submitted to the Attorney General's office for approval. I believe we got that approval in July or August. And the bylaw, the article states that 6 months after the approval, large establishments, so those with 3,500 square feet or larger would have 6 months, and then smaller than 3,500 have a year. So we decided just out of ease, March 1st, 2022, for those larger establishments, it would go into effect, and then September 1st, 2022 for those smaller establishments. I feel like a lot of communities are going this way. I feel like establishments probably aren't surprised with this article, particularly because some of the neighboring communities have gone the same way by banning plastic bags, and a lot of establishments already are using those paper bags.
I went to school in the area, so in Boston, Cambridge, and one day basically what happened was I went grocery shopping, and suddenly I had forgotten my reusable bags that I normally bring, and they didn't have plastic bags, and so I was like, that's interesting. And when I actually asked the person at the counter, they were like, oh yeah, we don't give out plastic bags anymore. And I noticed that this was a trend for every single grocery store that I went to, and so then I started to look into whether or not kind of what was going on, and I learned that Boston, and I believe Cambridge as well, have plastic bag ordinances where basically stores are not allowed to distribute plastic bags, or they have a fee attached to them. So then I started to look into just generally in the Massachusetts area, what people are doing around plastic bags. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool that the city has actually taken this great step for the environment. And so I did my research, and I learned that there are, I think, more than 40 towns and cities in Massachusetts that actually have plastic bag ordinances, and Walpole was not one of them, right? So I was like, okay, well, let me maybe email some people. So I emailed the selectmen, and I was just like, hi, can we look into this and see if Walpole would be interested in actually implementing a plastic bag ban? And that's kind of how it got started. The biggest thing, the most fundamental thing, is that plastic is really bad for the environment, and it's bad because we don't have a way as a society to get rid of it in a clean, environmentally friendly way. So you can burn it. If you burn it, then you release kind of toxic chemicals and toxic gases into the environment. Otherwise, it ends up in a landfill where it just decomposes into microplastics, which then get into animals. It gets into water systems, gets into even the air, right, in our homes. So basically there is no way for us to really get rid of plastic in a good way yet.
And finally, is there anything else you think Walpole consumers should know about the plastic bag ban?
Just if you have any questions, again, contact our office and get those reusable bags. I feel like that's something that is a giveaway in so many places. So if you see it as a giveaway, you don't have any, grab it. I know we have some reusable bags in the Walpole Health Department in case anybody needs one. I know that the recycling committee at the farmers market was giving some away. Walpole Green, they also have some bags. So I feel like you can find reusables. Just keep a couple in your car in case you forget yours at home, then you at least have one in the car that you can use. But you should still be able to get some sort of bag at the grocery store. It just won't be that single-use plastic bag.
2020 was a year of change for most of us, and Walpole resident Bill Murray was no exception. When his dog and best friend Molly Sue passed away, Bill's wife realized that he needed a hobby. And that's when Wild Willie's Sports Cards was born. Tamara Green has more.
And I was lost, and I was walking around my condominium until my wife said, you need a hobby. So this led me to this hobby. And then with COVID, and I read, was online, I was reading. It's something I wanted to do. I wanted to get back into collecting and investing and guiding individuals after I learned the most valuable card and the price point for the card that they were looking for, I could find for them online at a reasonable price. Brick and mortar stores have to charge a bit more because they have the overhead. And if they, I believe in capitalism, I believe in competing. And my way to compete is with my customers is to drive the price down as low as I can.
Bill has some advice for the novice collector.
My first piece of advice would to be first thing would be buy a binder for the cards and package the cards in what's called penny sleeves, which the sleeves are plastic. And when you open the cards, put the card right into the penny sleeve and then review the cards. And you're looking for rookies, you're looking for parallels if you're investing, or you're looking for just your favorite player that you like to collect. It doesn't have to be a high-end card. It can just be your favorite sports player.
How does someone know if their card is valuable or not? Well, it turns out cards are graded.
In the grading, they check up 4 aspects of the card, which is the surface, the centering, the edges, and the corners. So what collectors look at are sharp corners, centering, and edges and surface. That's what they look for when they grade. And there are different grading companies, but collectors like graded cards because that prevents counterfeits and frauds if you're purchasing a valuable card. So these companies, Beckett, HGA, PSA, being the gold standards, what they do is they verify that that card's authentic. And once it's encased in these are called slabs. Once it's encased in the slab, you are confident that if you're buying that card, it has been authenticated, and if you're going to part with your money, you are getting an authentic card.
There are other factors that determine a card's value.
That is probably my favorite card and most valuable. Currently, that's at $1,600 online, and to have a Mike Trout card signature, an authentic signature, which I also have authenticated by another company, is very valuable. So basically it's a rookie card, a serial numbered, and an autograph card. Drives up the value on most cards.
So who, in Bill's opinion, is the next big thing?
These are an example of my Shoyatani graded 10, PSA 10, and Beckett 9.5, as you see, rookie cards. And this individual had led the league in home runs, and he had 9 wins. He is the new Babe Ruth. And the Japanese market, they absolutely love him. So his card is only going to go up in value. He's one of the hottest cards in the hobby.
But let's not forget New England's next big thing.
Of course, new edition, my Mac Jones rookie card. I cannot keep enough Mac Jones in stock. And your best value is to get the rookie card early. And if they pan out, because if we go back in time and we could all get the Tom Brady rookie card back in the year 2000 when he was a 6th-round draft pick and no one thought much about him. And you had the card graded right away and that card came back at 10, you would be retired right now. And I just want you to know that Wild Willie's is about keep bringing affordability back to this hobby.
For Walpole News Today, I'm Tamara Green.
Linda Winslow, a member of the Walpole League of Women Voters and a member of the Massachusetts Nurses Association, hosted a forum called From the Front Lines of the Pandemic. Her guests included Katie Murphy, a nurse and current president of the MNA, Karen Coughlin, chair of the MNA Political Action Committee and a member of the MNA Board of Directors, and Lisa Field, the associate director of the MNA's Division of Legislative and Governmental Affairs. They discussed how frontline employees, especially nurses, are being affected during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The MNA was in the forefront of sounding the alarm about the lack of personal protective equipment and the need to have the standard of infection control. Patient loads have been as high and never have been as this high in terms of numbers of patients to a nurse and in terms of acuity. In other words, how sick the patient has been. During the first surge, nurses had the highest percentage of U.S. healthcare worker COVID-associated hospitalizations. And here's another sobering and tragic statistics. Nurses have the highest percentage of COVID deaths by occupation.
An important priority of the MNA is legislation addressing essential services. Since 2009, we have seen 40 unit or hospital closures across the state. In 2020 alone, and during a pandemic, a half dozen units either were closed or were proposed for closure. These range from intensive care units to medical surgical units to a maternal health unit to inpatient behavioral health beds. So we wanted just to take a few minutes to do a little deeper dive as to the impact of essential service closures specifically to maternity. This map shows the location of the 8 maternity units that have closed in the last 10 years. We put those locations on an overlay of the Area Deprivation Index, which clearly shows that most of the closures have happened in the most economically disadvantaged communities in the state. We have also had child and adolescent behavioral health beds closed, while the boarding of these patients in our emergency rooms have dramatically increased. We have had intensive care units temporarily closed during a public health emergency in which the state was allowing hospitals to actually temporarily expand their ICU capacity.
Massachusetts does not have a nursing shortage. We have a high number of nurses per capita and a nursing surplus. What Massachusetts has is a shortage of nurses willing to work at the bedside under the current conditions. Numerous surveys and studies have been done in the past year, and with most of them finding somewhat around 20% of nurses, 1 in 5, are planning to leave the field in the next few years. Here in Massachusetts, a survey conducted by the MNA found that 1/3 of nurses report that they plan to leave nursing earlier due to their work experience over the past year. Burnout, high patient loads, PTSD have only been exacerbated with the pandemic.
Nurses are assaulted on the job more than police officers and prison guards. Nearly 75% of all workplace assaults occur in healthcare settings. And over 70% of hospital emergency room nurses report being assaulted during their career. We have a lot of nurses who, they're just feeling at this point kind of beaten down. It's taken a toll on our workforce. And, they just want people to get vaccinated and get their boosters and let's put an end to this. Because they just don't want to do it anymore. They just don't want to do it anymore.
The Massachusetts Nurses Association is filing 3 bills that will help frontline employees. The Occupational Presumption Bill, which makes the presumption that frontline healthcare workers contracted COVID-19 in the course of providing care. The Healthcare Worker Notification Bill, which would require healthcare employers to notify a frontline worker of a COVID-19 exposure. And the PPE Transparency and Availability Bill, which would ensure transparency and reporting of available personal protective equipment and would create a Personal Protective Equipment Oversight Commission. If you'd like to watch the entire program, please check the listing on our website, www.walpolemedia.tv. More information on all of these stories is available on our YouTube channel. For Walpole News Today, I'm Jessica Kurgo.